charismatic man in the room. So yeah, we want to provide you boys in this one with as much practical value as possible. And yeah, by watching the live stream all the way to the end, you'll become happier, wiser, more charismatic gentlemen. You can go out there, take bold action, live a life beyond the beige, and yeah, ultimately get what you want in terms of dating, your social life, whatever it is you want. I think at the heart of every great man is that level of charisma, like being able to light up a room as soon as you go in there, like having that personal magnetism where people like turning their head, being like, who is this guy? Like I've seen so many people like this in my life where I often thought that like charisma was this like unattainable thing. Like when I was starting off in my journey, like when I was like 13 years old, like starting to teach myself magic, I thought, where are your clothes? In your mum's house, mate. Yeah, so like when I was
it's Matt who's trolling there. He said before the call he said that he was going to watch it, and of course he would end up just trolling.
Tell your mum that I want my clothes back. So when I was like 13 years old, I was starting off, socially anxious background. I was like kind of like looking at other people like in the fucking playground and being like, oh, why have they got it so easy? Like how are they doing this? Like, is charisma some sort of secret? Can it be achieved? And then over the years, I've definitely tapped into more of that charisma. And I do think that it's a skill that we can all learn. And I think it's also a practice as well. Like we become what we practice. So I wanted to do this live stream to pick your brains. I know you've worked with a lot of coaches over the years. And like I can share my stories as well, like how I went from like a socially anxious, like massively just sniveling mess to doing pretty well when it came to charisma, etc. So yeah, kick it off for us. Like how do you define charisma? How can guys become more charismatic? Let the people know.
Good question. So how can you define someone who's more charismatic? Well, I think certainly first of all to have more energy in yourself anyway. Usually if someone is incredibly shy, then they're obviously going to have that. If we were to make a generalization here, then they're going to be very quiet. They're not going to be very loud. They're not going to be very extroverted. And they're probably also not going to have a very great vocabulary of things to be able to talk about. So just having a level of social intelligence, or even just being cultured, you can then find that can be a good limitation of if you were to actually strike a conversation with a stranger, then you wouldn't really know what to say, which is obviously kind of like a big complaint that a lot of people have. They just don't know what to say to a woman if they're talking to her. But the element of being charismatic, where that can come in, is really if you're bringing your personality out even more in a conversation, but you're also able to kind of, I don't know, do it in a very kind of joyful kind of way. Or at least that's how I've kind of learned it. Like if you're charismatic to someone, you're very charming, you're very witty, you're very smart, you're cultured, and you've always got something to say. It's kind of why we actually like comedians. Comedians are incredibly charismatic because they are very quick on the ball when it comes to ideas of things to talk about. And they also have this understanding of the delivery in how they are talking to people as well, having those pauses, having that storytelling in place, but just knowing where to kind of ride it like a roller coaster for people, talk about the lower things, but then also talk about the high things and taking people on that journey. So I don't think there's probably like one definition for being charismatic, but I do think it's someone who is very charming and they have a lot that they can talk about and that they're happy to share as well, and probably even show an interest in another person at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like the whole, like, to become interesting, you have to be interested, right? Like making people feel witnessed, making people feel important, like actually going through life with a genuine curiosity about people. Because I think oftentimes when guys are stuck in their heads thinking, oh, how can I be more charismatic? It's too much focus on themselves. Like in every conversation that you go into, just trying to make someone's life 1% better, making them feel witnessed, important, valuable. People like people who make them feel good. I was explaining this in a video that I posted yesterday. Like, life is a value exchange. So if you want to be liked, you have to like other people, right? You have to go out there with that desire to give. And like talking about comedians as well, I do think humor is a secret superpower. Like, I don't see it get spoke about enough, especially in the whole like manospheric self-improvement space where it's all about lifting, journaling, meditating. Like, yeah, all that stuff is important.
Yeah,
But
or masculinity tends to just be the one kind of like hyper focus that people just look at. They see it as like, oh, if you're going to be meeting women, you have to be really, really masculine and this. But you know, masculine has different sort of levels to it. You don't have to be the guy who goes out with a really serious face, and when you're approaching women, you have to be like really, really serious and be like, yeah, I'm a man and I'm going to, you know, do X, Y, and Z too. I mean, it's absurd, you know, and I think then guys can get very caught up thinking more about the frame control rather than going out and having a good time. And I think even then, the less you can think about just trying to hold a particular look when you go out, and the more you have fun, I think in a way, the better results that you get, because people are attracted to confidence, but they're also attracted to people's personality as well. And if you're not bringing your personality out, then certainly you can't be charismatic and charming and have something that you can connect with a woman on a much deeper and more emotional level.
yeah, I think personality is one of those abstract things which is so difficult to actually coach. Like, a guy could have the materialistic trappings and trophies. Like, he could look great, he could have an amazing career, 10 out of 10 body, like high flying job, penthouse in Malibu, but he could just be a boring fucker that no one wants to be around because maybe he's got a negative attitude, or like you say, he's not cultured, he doesn't have stories to tell, or he's just taken the entire thing far too seriously. I was speaking with this actually about with my private network of guys the other day, and because I was in Milan and I was, as you know, I was doing some filming out there, and I was just like putting like voice messages into the group to update the guys on stuff. And one of the guys said to me, like, I think we should all make it our mission to actually make cold approach more fun, more enjoyable. And I agree with that, but I do think that when you're first starting this, it's very difficult to actually enjoy it because you're shit scared. You've got so many voices in your head, like so much anxiety. You just want to get the thing done. Like, you're not thinking like, oh, you know, I need to be having fun. You're just like, oh my god, this is so scary. I want to do the approach. Oh shit, people looking at me. Oh, does she have a boyfriend? So, in your experience, how can guys make cold approach more fun, especially if they're just starting with this? Are there any things that they can do to actually bring out more of that fun?
Yeah, I mean, there's just I think just doing more altruistic exercises is usually just a great way to do it. So one of the so in fact, I'll go through a few things first. Just remind me with this point, because you said some really interesting things. So definitely, I mean, in all the years that I've done work with coaches anyway, I can honestly say I've seen about like 80 plus different styles of guys going out and getting results, which tells me that, you know, it's the personality and just what you want to say is what gets the results, really. Yes, there are systems and lines and routines, blah blah blah, but the fact that I know at least that there are 80 different kinds of methods to going out and meeting people and having good conversations just means that it really is about bringing out that more confident and authentic version of yourself out as well. And, you know, that then comes to the point that you're making about with like the masculinity, and that, yes, you've got guys who just want to focus on masculinity, but you've also got the guys who want to focus on maybe just having more fun. I think when new guys come into this, I've always understood it more as like, if it was like a pendulum leaning towards, you know, different things for you to experience in this industry, you kind of have to let that pendulum swing all the way towards something. You have to experience what it's like being super masculine. You have to experience what it's like being super seductive. You have to experience what it's like being like, you know, super charismatic and just doing like the more social freedom sort of stuff here as well, to then find out where that equilibrium is, that middle point that you can go, right, this feels more like me. This is my version of how I want to do stuff. Because if you're coming into this new, you are a blank canvas. You haven't experienced anything. You also don't know what a more confident and more authentic version of you looks like because you haven't experienced it. If you're still very new, you haven't had the kind of interactions with women that other people who have been in the industry for a few years have. You know, you haven't been on maybe as many dates, or you haven't experienced what it's like flirting and being more bold and having those leadership skills. So it's very difficult then for a guy to imagine what that future version of himself, you know, can look like, which is why, yeah, I think in a way you have to try the extremities of like the different personality or just different traits of what you can end up developing in this industry, just to then find out where that equilibrium is, but doing it in a very sort of sensible manner, because this is where then you'll get guys who they go down a very sort of like aggressive masculine route. What would be an example of that, just to define that better? So they might always constantly believe that they have to hold a frame, a certain frame when they go out. They have to have like a certain attitude when they're talking to women. So let's say if they're going out on a date with a girl, they're like, no, we have to sit next to each other. I can't sit opposite you. If I sit opposite you, then no, we're not having this date. Like that kind of thing, you know. So then they're not going out with the mentality of like, oh, I want to get to know this woman more and see if we're going to have a good time. It's like, no, X, Y, and Z has to be like, it's very sort of military or very strategic. So they have to kind of try different things, which then comes back onto what you were saying about with, well, how can guys be more charismatic or develop that more? So certainly doing more altruistic things is just a great start for it. So I mean, you could go out and buy a couple of hot chocolates and just give it to strangers. Let's say that could be just a good little starting point with warming up your altruism. You could be just going out and giving compliments to people, and then ranking. I can't think of the word now. It's gone over my head, but you could ramp it. That's the word. Juicy word. So you could be ramping then the compliments up. I know it was something.
Get out there, boys. Listen, if you can take one thing away from this video, let it be this: get out there and start ramping.
Yeah, and I don't mean going over like the bumps in the road, although that's part of life as well. There's probably a metaphor within that, but absolutely, you could go out and give compliments and then ramp that up. You know, you could give yourself the exercise of just starting off really, really easy, going up to someone saying, "Oh, you look nice," and then ramping it up. "Oh, you look really good today. Oh, you look amazing. Holy hell, I nearly walked into a lamppost when I saw you. God, you look epic today. Wow." You know, you could really ramp it up. And in fact, with that, you are also taking a very incremental step, upping the energy in your body. And you're also developing the creativity side of your brain as well. If you're forcing yourself to think of new things to say, because you're like, okay, I recognize I use the same stuff over and over, force yourself to say something new. And in fact, that will also develop your charisma, because you are developing that creativity in a way that is also going to be just authentic to you. You're saying stuff that no one else is likely going to say. You know, and there's also other little games that you can do to work on that. I mean, you could play like the word association game. If you're going out with a friend, you could end up easily, if you're just walking around, I mean, you could say, right, blue, and then someone else could say sky, and then someone else might say plane, you know, and then it could go to airport, and then it could be holiday, and then it could be Christmas. You know, you can develop also just your creativity through that as well. And also that just develops a little bit of silliness into your conversations, which can also then lead to you just having more entertaining and interesting conversations like that. So yeah, there are certainly like little things that can be done, but even just by practicing with a friend, just having conversations that aren't day game related, especially if you are out and talking to people, that can also put you into a much more charismatic state rather than this kind of like military conversation that will just make it even more difficult to talk to people because you're thinking of a strategy of a conversation to say rather than being very present in the moment. And I think that's probably one other thing that I would just mention is that it is about being present. It's very difficult to be charismatic if you are constantly in your head and you're overthinking about stuff that has nothing to do with the conversation that you're trying to have with someone. Or if you're trying to plan what to say, then yeah, it's very, very difficult to learn to enjoy it because, okay, the other person has no idea that you're taking them on, you know, a journey, but for you, you're not going to be having the level of fun or putting that level of authenticity into the conversations that you could then if you were to be like, okay, I'm going to just actively listen to what the other person is saying. And if there's anything that I can pick up on here, I wonder if there is just a very natural joke or question or comment or statement that I can make that could make this interesting. And even actually bringing in a relatable story as well, that might not necessarily be to do with the conversation, but it could be something that just also allows a conversation to expand. So, for example, maybe you are talking to, so in fact, actually, while you're in Serbia at the moment, right? So perhaps when you're talking to someone, if you've stopped a girl, maybe there's some jokes that you can be making or might make about going on holiday, which would be, you know, a very, very simple kind of expansion of a conversation. And even then, within that, you'd probably demonstrate some level of culture there. You might make, in fact, I think probably making a generalization about something is usually a great way to just spark a conversation. So maybe there's like a generalization that you can make about people in Serbia. You know, I'm here in Serbia for the first time ever, and all I keep seeing is women strutting up and down this same street over and over. If I didn't know any better, I think they knew that I came to visit, and they want me to come in over and talk to them. Is that true? Do they know who I am? Have they been watching Christian Casanova's YouTube channel? Am I just as famous here as I am back in London? You know, and I mean, and I've got a little bit of a smile out of you, but for them, I mean, it might be the most funniest thing that they've ever heard. You know,
she's like, sorry, man,
I
I don't speak English. Oh, that's so wasted.
Yeah, but you know, and if they were like, "Oh, I don't speak English," and would they have said that in English, or would they have tried to like, would it have been more like a broken English, like "I don't speak English," you know?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, because
no,
if they said that they don't speak English, then I would have been like, "Perfect, I don't speak English either." Right, nice to meet you. You know, you can quite easily turn that around. Or if they genuinely don't, just be like, "Okay, all right, I'm getting Google Translate." Do you know Google? You know Google, don't you? I can't really, you know. And then you're on Google Translate going like, "You are really, really cute." And then you play it back, and then you've got some like Russian accent of a woman, you know, sort of flirting with her instead of you. Then even that just makes for a very entertaining situation. Which actually, thinking about it, a guy that I learned from with Charisma and just bringing out the more entertaining side of things, he always had a saying of like, whenever you talk to someone, it's either going to go really, really well, or it's going to be a really funny story.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful mindset to have with like any interaction that you have, because it's just a win-win no matter what. You're either going to have a great interaction with the women that you're stopping and talking to, or even if it goes embarrassing or horribly wrong, you've now got a story to tell your friends or the guys that you're spending time with, going out and doing approaching. Like, "Oh, you won't believe what happened to this in Serbia the other day. Oh, I was stopping a girl, and then I nearly got hit by a bicycle, and she was just standing there absolutely stunned. She didn't know what to say." You know, it just becomes then another conversation.
That is how you make this more fun. I understand that. That's so for any beginner who's watching this, that is the mindset to help you become more charismatic. like if it goes well, great. If it doesn't, you have a funny story. So now there's no excuse if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I don't know how to have fun with this. Well, now you do, because you can't lose, right? You can't lose. You've got the funny story to tell, or you've gone and got a phone number from a beautiful Serbian girl. So I love that. I think that is as practical as it gets. So
And you
thank
can
you for
apply it
sharing
to
that.
anything as well, which is, I think, just the really beautiful message with it. So let's say, just as a very simple example, you want to go to the gym. You've gone to the gym and you know you want to be lifting a heavier weight, but maybe you are scared to do it. It's either going to go really, really well, or you're going to have a funny story. You know, I lifted the weight, I really struggled, and a really cute girl walked by, and I accidentally farted.
Yeah.
You know, and she laughed, I laughed, but you know what? It made a great opportunity for me to go over and say hello. You know, you can then spin literally anything around into something that is a little bit more joyful, certainly more optimistic, and again, it just becomes a great story of stuff that you can add to then like a catalogue of other great stories for you to then tell other people, whether it be friends or women that you're meeting.
Yeah, and you can start doing this today. Like, you can literally go out today, set yourself the challenge of telling 5 women that they look beautiful, and then, as the worst case scenario, let's say they all go atrocious, you can then tell that story. Like, right, I went out today, I aimed to approach like 5 girls. It just didn't go very well. They didn't receive the compliments. Some of them didn't speak English. I kind of like stumbled over my words. Like, it just bit of a car crash, really. But then you've made the decision in that moment to interpret it from a place of optimism rather than from a place of pessimism. Because like 2 guys could go out and have the exact same like negative, undesirable experiences. One guy interprets it as, oh fuck me, that was a funny story, and the other guy goes on like fucking like the comment section being like, the girls don't like me, cold approach doesn't work. It's like it's all in here. Like, mindset really is everything. It's the ultimate aphrodisiac. It's like the way you talk about yourself, like that is the reality that you live. And you spoke about like being present, like, okay, being present through life, but in particular being present in your cold approach conversations. How do guys do that? How do guys become more present when they do have a lot of thoughts going through their minds?
That one's quite a difficult one, because it can depend on the kind of thoughts or the level of thoughts that they have. You know, if it's very intense that it's essentially crippling for them, then you know they have to probably consider a therapy, really, to work with that. In all honesty, because you need some level of a support system. If your inner voice or inner dialogue is essentially saying like, no, you're not good enough, no one's going to stop for you, you're not going to get results, you're going to have to stay how you are, then that is going to be crippling. That's, you know, you could go out and try and talk to 100+ women. And if that voice is still there, then it's going to be very difficult for you to develop that confidence. But you can, though, in the other thing that you said, I mean, active listening is going to be the important thing, really. You know, it's, you have to also just distract your brain from letting those inner voices come in, as well as you need to replace them with more positive experiences as well. So it might not even necessarily mean you know, having more positive interactions and then you're like, oh, okay, I've got the reference experience there. It could be that you actually have to just shift your emotion that you're currently feeling during the day by doing more altruistic things. So in a way, it's a bit like how method actors, you know, they can shift their emotions by putting themselves into a particular mindset or role that after a set period of time, it could be minutes, it could be hours or whatever, that they can then shift their behaviors by, you know, forcing themselves to be like something else. So in fact, actually a really good example, which maybe you can relate, I know I can with this, but when you were in school, did you ever play sick to try and have a sick day from school?
Yes.
Okay, so I definitely have as well. I'm sure anyone who watches this in future, they'll probably also be like, yeah, okay, I've also done this. So interestingly, when you method act, you force the body to then go into that behavior as well. So oh, I'm really, really sick. Oh, I really don't feel well. Oh, I'm going to be sick. You know, you do that for a while. Hilariously, you do then make yourself ill. You do then make yourself feel sick.
Mm.
Which is why, like, I'd have the odd sick day from school, and probably even yourself as well. You'd claim that you were sick when you weren't sick, and then somehow you ended up making yourself ill. And simply because you just shifted your behaviors into this other role. And it's the same if you're watching a movie. You know, you watch a horror movie, you can shift it, your energy, into one that's being more frightened, more scared, because you are wanting to create that behavior. And the same thing can happen if you want to put yourself into a more positive mindset and into more positive behaviors. If you watch funny movies or funny TV shows, if you're doing things that make you laugh and make you smile, whatever that can look like to you, it might be just going out and just saying like hello to people. That could be like the most simplest thing to just shift your energy. But you have to shift your behaviors, force that method acting within your body to take place. And what will happen, you will inevitably just change your mindset. It might just be temporary, so it could be just for the day, but you will shift your behaviors because of that. So then you'll find that that will overwrite whatever sort of negative thoughts that you've got, because you'd have to let those negative thoughts come back in, tell you you're not good enough, you're a loser, etc., for you then to slowly bring your energy back down to get back to that. So that then can be just a lot more difficult for something like that to take place. So yeah, if guys want to sort of certainly become more charismatic, or have get rid of those doubts or worries in their head, then you have to think, okay, what can I do to just shift my behavior right now? And once I've done that, maybe at that point, that's where then I can start doing the stuff that I want to do, and I can start getting the results that I want. Because if you're going out talking to people and you're in a good mood, why wouldn't it go well? You know, or if you do have a bad interaction, if you get rejected, I think even rejection is probably a harsh word. I don't think you're necessarily rejected by a woman. I mean, I don't think guys also realize, like, you don't know what's going on in a person's life when you're going over and talking to them. They could have literally have had the most worst possible day in the entire world, and you chose to stop them, you know. And so you have to almost like embrace what kind of conversation that you're going to have. And again, remembering it's either going to go really, really well, or it's going to be a funny story. Then you've then got a story to tell someone else or another girl that you talk to. You know what? I spoke to a lady the other day, and she had the worst possible day I think I had ever known for someone. I genuinely felt sorry for her. What's the worst kind of day you've ever had? And then you've got a conversation from something, and it's quite a deep conversation just from that example, but you've then got something to talk about. So yeah, if just by shifting your behaviors, especially through method acting, especially just doing things that you enjoy as well, because I mean, there are so many like exercises, altruistic exercises, social freedom exercises, although with social freedom stuff, I think there's kind of a line still with it. Like, I don't believe like if a guy goes out, he should be like shouting like crazy things to people. If he's a very sort of shy person, I think that's only going to cause like the rubber band effect, and then he's going to be even more scared to talk to people. But just by doing something that you want to do, that you know would make you feel good and make other people's day, then do it. And you'll find as well, and there is a science behind this, but when you do altruistic and good things for people, the blood vessels in your body actually open up more, and they cause more blood flow around the body, and that also can help with releasing those happier hormones, and that can also make you feel good. And you're also reducing then the level of cortisol in your body, which is the thing that when that happens in your brain, or the hormone that's released in your brain, that just stops you from thinking properly because you're in that fight or flight response. So the more relaxed you can make yourself, or not even relaxed, but the happier you can make yourself, then it's going to be even easier to have conversations with people and be more altruistic. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely relate with how your psychology affects your physiology. And when you are feeling good in yourself, you're able to start experiencing success in advance. And the whole like rejection thing, like I agree, she's simply declining an invitation that you've extended. But like even though you can like interpret that logically, like in the moment, if you really like a girl and she's like, no, thank you,
Oh, you take it to heart
yeah,
because it's a very vulnerable thing anyway.
yeah, it does sting. However, if you're already operating from a place of wholeness, so you already feel really good about yourself, it just doesn't sting as much. If you're going out there and you feel truly shit about yourself and you're experiencing failure in advance and you're basically already saying to yourself, "Oh, she's going to reject me." And let's say it's like a polite declining of that invitation, it's going to hurt you so much more because like you're operating from a place of lack rather than from a place of wholeness. So like I agree. I really do think that you should only cold approach, like especially when you've got some experience. This is the way that I like my clients to do it. I really don't think anyone should force themselves to cold approach when they're not feeling good. I just think that's a terrible
Yeah.
strategy. Like the whole like, no excuses, take action regardless of how you feel. Like more sets, that's what you need. No, it's not. Like, because if you're already feeling shit, like I say, you're going to be experiencing failure in advance. The slightest knock is going to destroy you. So I really do think you should go out to cold approach, especially when you do feel like it. Because I think we all have those days where for some reason we just wake up in the morning and we're just feeling good. Or maybe we've stacked wins previously in the day. Maybe we've gone to the gym, we've had a cold shower, we spent good time with good people. Now we're feeling really good. Boom. Now do an hour of cold approach. You'll get more from that hour than you would compared to if you're going out like 5 hours a day, forcing yourself to do it. I don't think you should be, and that's not licensed to be lazy. That's not saying, you have to wait for the perfect time. I hope that the guys who are listening to this are socially intelligent enough to recognize what I'm saying, but you will just get those days. Like, for example, some days when we're filming together, I'm just not in the mood for it. And we've had like some filming days which have just gone shit. So I'm just not in the mood. I'm just not there. Like, I'm not present. I'm not feeling it that day for whatever reason. Like, it happens to all of us. But I think it's important to be able to like recognize that in yourself and just to cut yourself a little bit of slack as well. We can be crushingly cruel commentators of ourselves sometimes. Like, oh, you're a loser. You need to make it happen. No excuses. Take action. And you've got a shitload of coaches like who are just like saying all this stuff. Like, go outside. No excuses. Especially even if it's raining. Especially if there's no girls about. Just keep going until you've done your 10 approaches. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I think you should do this, especially when you do feel like doing it. And if your mental health is not at a place right now where you can actually stomach some undesirable outcomes, you should get that sorted first. 1,000,000%. Like once you're in a good place mentally, you can then start applying that mindset of, okay, worst case scenario, it's a funny story. But if you've got like 0% self-confidence right now, it's difficult to digest that information because it's not going to be a funny story for you because you fucking hate yourself. So I think you're better off like taking 3 to 6 months, stacking healthy habits, like stop watching porn, stop wanking, get yourself a gym membership, spend more time outside, do some fucking meditating, gratitude journey if it helps you, sign up to some like social classes, spend more time around more people who you don't know more often, and then just take it gradually. Because I don't think cold approach is not for everybody right now. I think it can be for everybody at some point in their lives, but I do think some guys just need to take more care to take care before they actually get involved in this.
Yeah, everyone rushes, I think, to try and get the results at the end of the journey, but they kind of forget that you do have to enjoy the process with it. You have to kind of go along with the ride, get all those experiences that you need to develop your confidence and to develop that personality that's just the better version of you. And then but that could be like within a couple of months, it could be a year, 2 years plus. I mean, at the end of the day, there's not really a deadline with doing anything that's self-improvement related. As long as you're working on yourself and you're making yourself happier overall, then however long it takes, really. And in fact, there's one exercise that I will actually just add on to what you said. If guys are going out and they aren't in the best of moods, by simply starting off doing either like very charitable exercises when you go out, if you are then having a bad interaction, you've got that reference of, well, I can't be a bad person because I've just been doing all these good things this morning. So in a way, by starting off your day doing more altruistic things, that can actually give you maybe a little bit of a shield. It might only prevent a couple of bashes if you do have some bad interactions. So if it just turns out that sod's law, you have a full day just filled with girls not interested in talking to you. What maybe might have been that first interaction, if it had gone horribly wrong, might have been like, all right, bugger it. I'm not doing this. Not today. Not today. It could be a case that actually you can tolerate maybe 4 or 5 turn downs or rejections, and then you might be like, okay, you know what, I don't think today is going to be my day, and then that's it. So by doing just good things, just shifting your mood, yeah, I think it can give you a bit of a shield, at least a temporary one, just to kind of help you with some of the bad or worse interactions rather than with the better ones.
Yeah, something that I was doing yesterday, and because it's like 33 degrees Celsius here in Belgrade.
That's hot.
Yeah, I decided not to get a gym membership out because I'm only going to be here for 10 days. I'm like, I kind of want to take a break from like lifting weights or whatever. So something that I really enjoy doing is like sprinting outside. So I basically like just like ran this experiment. This is actually something that you told me, like treat it more as just like an experiment, like be like a scientist, like just see what happens. So I was like, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to a park, which is like got a lot of people in there. So it's almost like a social freedom exercise in itself as well. And I'm going to go sprint around this park, and then if I see any girls who are like looking over at me, if I see any girls who are interested in me, then I'm just gonna go over and talk to them. And that's exactly what I did. So I was like sprinting up and down, and as soon as I saw someone looking at me, so it's basically like a warm approach at that point. And because I'm already feeling good, I've got those endorphins flowing, I'm operating from that feel good place. It was so easy to just have conversations with girls, and like it just like for me it was like that there's so many ways that you can play this game. It doesn't just have to be parading up and down Oxford Street, right? You can get creative with it. You can start this is more like integrating it into your lifestyle, but I think it encapsulates everything that we've been speaking about. Like, so I'm going out with the mission of making myself feel good, exercising, getting good sunshine, but like, I've already got it in my mind as well. Like, if I see someone who takes my interest, then I can act on that opportunity that I'm getting. And I think I'm just going to do this like every day whilst I'm here. I think it's just like a good practice to keep my skills sharp. It just makes the exercise more fun as well. Because at any moment I could see somebody and I could go over there. Like, I'm sweaty as fuck. It's a nice sort of like playful conversation. I'm just sprinting and like, I just saw, yeah, excuse me, I'm really sweaty. She's like, I don't speak English. It's okay. I'm like, yeah, have some sweat. But like, it just felt good. And I think when you've been in this industry for a decent amount of time, obviously I've not been in it for as long as you are, but you do need ways, I think, to spice it up. And like, I just felt like I felt connected to my most charismatic self because I had like an abundance of activity going on. So yeah, I think like it just for me anyway, it was just a really nice way to connect with my more charismatic spirit.
Yeah, and in fact, actually, just having that being a scientist mentality and saying to yourself, right, I want to challenge myself today. What could I do that just pushes my comfort zone, even just a little bit, that can make me feel good in just knowing that at least I tried, even just at the minimum. And there was a point, there was an exercise I had. Bugger it, no, it's gone. It's gone. I had a really good one. It'll probably come back.
Yeah,
but I had a really
talking about being a scientist, yeah, like going out.
It was an exercise for that, but it's completely gone out of my head now.
Give something to people.
No, it's gone.
No? Okay.
It's gone. It grew legs and it just sort of like walked away. It'll come back. Hopefully it'll come back. But there was a point about just having this scientific approach, and that if you do go out, then
Dan, I have to say this is great.
It's literally on the tip of my tongue as well. That's so frustrating.
This is just a masterclass in retention. Like, you're just like, oh, I was gonna say something like super vibe. Oh shit, I can't remember. You're gonna have to listen to this for another 30 minutes, and then I'll reveal it. Absolute masterclass. I take my hat off to you.
But even that could be just that. I mean, it sounds silly, but I mean that could be like an exercise as well. If guys go out and they're like, okay, I want to just sort of test, like what's something with the science. Yeah. No, I've got it now. I've got it.
Oh, right, listen. So this is juicy shit right here.
So with the science thing, so you mentioned before about with guys getting stuck in their head about if they are going out. Well, if you were to also go out with a bit of a scientific mentality or gamify, that was where I was going with this. So you could gamify your experiences a little bit more, make your approaches more fun. So one example that of things that I used to do with friends is that in London we would kind of play a bit of a we kind of called it day game Monopoly. So we would we'd kind of like bring up on our phone the Monopoly board, and we would kind of keep track of like roughly the route that you would take to do the full circle around the board, and we would go and do approaches in those areas. And there was about 4 of us together, and what we would do is if we had like a point system of if you did an approach, you got 1 point. So no, if you got rejected, you got 1 point. If you got a phone number, no, what was it? It was something like that. But if you got a phone number, you got 2 points. If you got an instant date, you got 3 points. And essentially, all you had to do was at least get a point to move to the next location.
Nice.
So then meant that you had moments where you were with your friends, and then you had other moments where you were on your own because you'd just gone ahead of them. That's they're still stuck in one location, and you're now moving on. And you could do like little gamified things, like if you got to a train station, maybe you get like a half an hour break, or if you get to the train station before your friends do, then they have to buy you a drink or something at the end of the day, and if you but maybe that was like where the drinks and stuff were. But you could kind of like just gamify the experience. Or on the scientific front, if let's say a guy gets in his head that if he sees a girl that he's attracted to and he's scared to go over, what he needs to do is on his phone or on his watch, set a timer, set a stopwatch, and almost try and do like a personal best thing with how quickly you go over and talk to someone. So if it takes you 20 seconds, let's say, to make the decision to actually go over from where you saw her to and starting the clock to actually going over and at least saying something, you're like, okay, on my next approach, I need to try and beat 20 seconds. And then maybe on the next one, you might get it in 16. And then the next one might be 10. And then the next might be 5. And then it might go down as literally as like low as 3 or something, where you are making your decision so quick, you're like running straight over as soon as you've seen someone that you're attracted to. So it's a good, even that, just by gamifying the system and even maybe competing with friends with it. See, like, who's got the personal best at the end of the day? Whoever's got the best time, everyone has to buy them a round of drinks or something, by the end of the evening. If you really want to kind of make it like a lad's experience with going out. But yeah, you can just make it much more enjoyable, and you're also just going to take yourself out of your head because you're not thinking about certain things. All you're thinking about is, I want to win. I want those free drinks. You know what? I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be the best here. And actually, a bit of competitiveness can go a long way, and especially if you're making it fun and interesting. So yeah, that was my point. I finally got it out.
No, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you resurrected that from the fucking pits of forgottenness. I'm so happy. Like that's so good. And like people always say to me, Christian, like how did you get so good like so fast with day again? I'm like, it's literally by spending time with this man here. Like he's seen it all. He's worked with everybody. We actually forgot to talk about. We'll do the coaching ad now. We might as well. Like this is why we put together the Renaissance days. So this is literally your opportunity to have the exact treatment that I've had for the past 3 years. actually working with Dan one-to-one in London, right? So that's what these Renaissance days are about. It's you're having the full VIP individually tailored experience where you'll go around with London. Maybe you can play Monopoly with the guys. You can go around London with Dan. He's gonna give you feedback from your approaches. He's going to film your approaches. There's no obligation for it to go out on YouTube. The footage is for your eyes only.
Yep.
All private, unless you do want to become a cult icon, then let us know. But it's for your eyes only. So he'll film the whole thing. He'll give you feedback. You'll sit in like a Cafe Nero at the end of the session, and he'll give you deep feedback, and then he'll send the content over to me for even deeper analysis. We'll then schedule a call where I'll give you my feedback. Like, this is, for us, this is the best way to actually accelerate your progress in this space. And it's only 595 quid. Like, it's a fucking steal for what you're getting. You're getting all of Dan's experience, you're getting my experience, and you're getting the whole thing on camera. You're able to immortalize this experience into a piece of content, which is yours to keep. And we recommend booking multiple sessions in, so then you can actually compare yourself as the months go on. Like, that's what I did. It was a case of, like, the first time we filmed was like in December of 2020. Then we filmed again like 3 months later. After actually watching myself, getting feedback from you, myself, and the internet, I was able to accelerate things. So that's we're excited about this, because if you're going out there and you've got no feedback, you don't know where your blind spots are. And this experience is for everybody as well. It's not just for guys who've never done this before. It's for guys who've been in the game for a while. Maybe you've been out the game, you've gotten a little bit rusty, or maybe you are doing really well, but you could get better. Like, everyone needs feedback. It's why I continue to push myself to make these videos, to get feedback from the world, because if we're not growing, then we're stalling. So for you, after being in this industry for a long time now, how important is it for guys to actually get this individually tailored feedback?
It's super important, because everyone has their own, again, unique style of how they talk to people. They've got their own backstories, they've got their own experiences and cultures and stuff, and you have to learn how to bring that best version of you out. And I think, in a way, without being able to watch yourself from a third person perspective and actually learning from that, there can be a slight level of naivety with how you think you're actually doing to what is the reality, you know, because sometimes, well, in fact, I can certainly say, like, over the years, I have actually met guys who, you know, they believe like they're God's gift to humanity, and I've like filmed their interactions, and I've gone like, what on earth was that? You know, and this isn't necessarily like we're just your normal everyday guys. These have been like dating coaches who have like been and gone over the years, where they've gone like, yeah, I've done a residential, now I want to be a coach myself. Right. And then when they've come to sort of prove what they can do, it's just awful. They just, you know, they're like, oh, I'm amazing, you know, and then also you don't really know with some of the stories that they say if they're true or not as well, which is another thing with this. Don't really know what's true or not, because they've just got that conviction behind what they're saying. They've probably used that line so many times. They're like, yeah, I had a threesome last week, it was fucking amazing, you know, and you're like, did you though? Did you really? So bringing it back to the filming, I mean, being able to watch yourself allows you as the viewer to essentially identify what your bad habits are and your mannerisms, and you know, and even getting advice from like myself and Christian, being able to self-critique, being able to watch yourself and be like, right, I don't like that about myself, I don't like this, but also having someone else just get you to notice them and point them out, can really, really shift very quickly those behaviors. You know, because it's a very surreal experience. I mean, I don't know what you know much about with like NLP or neuro linguistic programming, but There are exercises within that, and I'm always skeptical about like lots of things, but I always try and stay very optimistic about stuff. But there are exercises in NLP that essentially try and encourage people to have like out of body experiences. So there's ones where like you set two chairs up and you sit on one chair and the other chair's empty, but then you have to move to the other chair, and you're saying like, what advice would you give to yourself, knowing, you know, if you were now 5 years in the future or something, you'd be like, oh well, I would do this or that. There's an element of this kind of exercise that takes place when you watch your own footage, because you can see what you like, what you don't like. You can get a better sense of your conversations, how you articulate yourself to people. You can also get an idea of how you're standing. You know, are you standing really confidently? Does it kind of look like that you're sort of looking a bit like shy or nervous? And of course, you know, I'm always very sympathetic to guys anyway, that, you know, the first few approaches they do are going to be nervous. They're going to be nervous and anxious anyway. So I always give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm sure you will anyway when you're doing the feedback thing with them. But, you know, it's then as the time goes on, I mean, after like 3-4 hours of working together, at least over that halfway point, that's usually then when guys have like warmed up, especially as I know with coaches, you've warmed up, you're a lot more present, you're in that flow state, and you're able to actually have much more decent conversations. But what's great is then you can identify, and you can certainly see just how quickly you develop in the interactions. You can see that on camera. You can see what you were like when you were anxious, and you can see what that looked like when you were confident. And going back with the method acting that I mentioned before, if you can recognize the certain traits in your more confident videos, then you can implement that the moment you leave the house and start doing your approaches as normal. And that's what I really, really like about it. So it's fantastic feedback, I think, for any guy. Everyone that I know that I have filmed with over the years, they have genuinely improved much faster with their approaches and their conversations and stuff, simply by being able to watch themselves on camera and get that feedback or self-critique. So I think probably besides the actual filming of guys, I mean, for them to essentially have two coaches then give them feedback is I think really probably the bonus within that. I think, you know, just getting just filming footage and then them getting it, yes, that certainly helps, and that will get them so far. But to have then another perspective of coaches who have been in the field for a few years, that is going to make just, I think, the more drastic shift, because literally overnight you're going to like sleep on it. You're going to be like, right, I know exactly what I need to do. And then when you go into your interactions, you're going to instantly recognize them. You're going to be like, oh, hang on a minute, I don't like how I'm standing. I'm going to shift this, or oh, I need to stand with a bit more posture, and, you know, or straighten my back and stuff, or bring my shoulders forward, or head more held high. You know, you're going to remember all of that, and even in the feedback that I give whilst we're out and we're filming as well, because I want to bring out the more authentic conversations and more authentic version of you, but bring out much more confident conversations with people. So you can have better interactions, and also you're going to state your intention even clearer. So if you're someone who's maybe not getting phone numbers, then I will be able to see what the issues are that's causing you not to get phone numbers. And hilariously, it's always like a tiny little thing, like the most smallest incremental shift will probably be the thing that gets you a result. It's never a crazy long journey to get results. It's usually right, you were doing this, just do this instead. And then they're like, holy shit, I can't believe I just got a phone number. That's like the first one I've had in months. And then I'm like, great, okay, there you go. We can move to the next space now on the Monopoly board, and we carry on going. So, you know, but yeah, so being able to watch yourself, fantastic opportunity. I think the feedback that you'll get from me will be great, especially if you are struggling with your conversation skills, especially if maybe you aren't feeling that you're getting the most optimized experience when you are going out and doing approaching. You know, it's very well to go out and practice, but also you need to be doing like great practice sessions. It can't be just going out for the sake of it, because I've also known guys, they go out, they could speak to hundreds and hundreds of women, and they are still at the exact same place they were a year later or 2 years later. And it's because they just haven't been pushed to try something different that was actually the better approach for them to do in their interaction. So yeah, I think that kind of covers everything with it. But absolutely, like getting the feedback with videos will do wonders for you. Whether you are also whether you've been doing it for a while, whether you're new, or if you've already worked with like a dating coach like Christian, then absolutely being able to then a few months later come back and do filming, see where you're at, see if you've been held accountable enough to have implemented the skills that you've learned, is also an important thing, because I find it absolutely heartbreaking when I've heard of guys like over like the last decade or so who have spent like, I can honestly say like tens of thousands of pounds, and they are still at the exact same spot, and it's just simply because they've either not had the aftercare from coaches, or they just haven't been held accountable and taken the responsibility that they needed to go out and practice on a regular basis. And I think by having at least the filming sessions, even if it's like every quarter that you do it, it's just a great way just to be like, okay, right, am I still as sharp as I was 3 months ago? Have I still got that skill? Have I held on to it? Am I lacking with anything? And then at least you're getting the feedback and being told what you need to change if not. So yeah.
Yeah, because like with this, we don't want you to just be successful for a day. We want you to be successful for the long term, like for life.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned the accountability as well. Like the days themselves, like being able to actually be with you. So the guys are actually going to have you who's going to be able to push them into the approaches. So they're not just wandering around on their own, pissing the time away. They've got you by the side. And also, they've paid money for this experience. Like when you invest money into something, you're more committed to actually getting the result. And the more money you pay, the more committed you are. It's like if I was paying £5 a month for a gym, maybe I'll go, maybe I won't. If I was paying £300 a month for that gym, I'm going every single day. Like the higher the financial commitment, the stronger the emotional investment. So when you actually invest money into yourself as a man, that's how you accelerate progress, because you have to, because you put money down. And guys like, I don't want to spend this money. Look at what I would say, though, as an exercise, look at what you're spending money on every single month, right? Because I guarantee you're pissing your money away on things that you think might get you girls, but actually don't. You're spending too much money on like fucking stupid designer clothes. You're going out with the lads every Saturday, waking up the next day, you're like £300 worse off with like fuck all to show for it. So whenever guys complain about investing into themselves as people, look at the money you're wasting on a month-to-month basis. And the reality is as well, you're spending all of this money because you want to get girls, because you want to receive love from the family. So rather than pissing your money away at things that might get you girls, invest in something that actually will, which is your skill set as a man. So I think that level of accountability, because like every time that we're filming together, like I'm paying you money for that filming. So even if I am having a shit day, I still need to make something happen, because I'm like, well, I'm paying for this. But if it's free, you don't give a fuck. You're just like, oh well, who cares? It's free, don't matter. Like it's just not the same. And I think having that accountability as well, going around with you, knowing the footage is going to get sent over to me. And I think the beautiful thing about getting yourself recorded in this cold approach setting is it holds a mirror up to where you're at. I guarantee you'll have the same experience that I had when I first watched myself back, probably for the first like 1 or 2 years, where I was like, fuck, is that what I actually look like?
I saw some of your videos. You look so much younger as well. So it's incredible, just that shift in just a few years.
What was funny, right? When I was in Milan and I got recognized by this guy who watches my videos, right? So he came over to me. He's like, "You look familiar. Do I know you?" I was like, "Where do you think you know me from?" He's like, "YouTube." I was like, subscriber. And he was like, "You look so much younger on the videos." I'm like, "Yes, mate. That's what you call the masculine development." But the thing with this as well is the whole process, like working with you, has completely changed my life. Like I wouldn't be sat on the fucking floor in Belgrade right now if it hadn't have been from working with you. And it's been holistic, right? It's not just, accelerate your cold approach conversations, get more girls, go on more dates. It's literally everything. It's how can I become a more fuckable man? How can I improve myself holistically and just maximize my value in all the key areas? So I think it does hold a mirror up to you. And the final thing I'll say is, like, you really have to want this, right? We don't have any time for crybabies or excuse makers or action dodgers. Like, you're coming here because you actually want to transform yourself. We'll give you everything you need, but you'll get out of this what you put into it. So yeah, if you're ready to transform, just click the link in the comments. I'll take you to the website. All the information's on there. And just book in a free 30-minute consultation call. You'll speak to me for 30 minutes. I'll run you through everything, answer any questions that you've got. And then yeah, we'll see you in London. So yeah, I think the final thing that I wanted to ask you in terms of charisma, how guys can become the most charismatic version of themselves. For me as well, it's the people that you spend time with. I find that I'm way more charismatic when I've got the right people around me, right? I'm not saying that, oh, like if I'm on my own, I can't be as charismatic or whatever, but there is just, I think, because we are tribal creatures, we operate better in groups. It's like we've got that social safety net. My friend Joseph was explaining to me that, like, if I think it was like a chimpanzee, if a chimpanzee like wanders on his own, he's more open for attack from like the other chimpanzees who will come and fucking kill him. But when you've got a group around you, it gives you that sense of security, that safety, that social safety net where you can express yourself without concern because you know you've got your tribe around you. So how important do you think having a network of guys is when it comes to becoming more charismatic?
Oh, well, it's incredibly important because you've got a support system then in place. And it's also more socially acceptable to do something if there's a group of you doing it rather than just one person doing it. So there's a coach that I'd learned from many, many years ago, a guy called Adam Lyons. And I remember once he did, and this is always a great story, but he went out with guys and he told a story of, imagine if a guy went out on his own and he dressed like a penis. Like, you know, he went out, it just looked really bizarre. You've just got literally a single guy dressed in like a penis outfit. It would just look bizarre. No one would want to talk to him. Everyone would probably stay clear. They'd run a mile, etc. But what happens if you've got a group of guys all dressed as penises?
Yeah.
It suddenly looks like a stag do. It suddenly becomes more acceptable that, oh, you've got a group of people, you've got a group of guys who are doing something really weird together. So it must be normal. It must be okay. So if guys are certainly anxious with going out and doing approaching on their own, maybe that's not the best starting point you need to go for. Maybe you do need a support system first. We'll go out with other guys, get more comfortable that way, develop whatever social skills and social intelligence you need to go, okay, now I know I've got better realistic expectations if I'm going to go out and do approaching on my own. But I know I've got that support system still behind me. And then I could turn around and say to the guys, look, I did this today. And they'll be like, great, well done, you've done it. Or if you turn around and say, guys, I had the worst experience today. And they go, right, tell us about it. Was it a funny story? And then you've got stories to tell. And again, it just makes for great conversations and experiences with people that are supporting you on your journey and are helping you to be that better person as well.
Yeah, and I think for an added bonus as well, like when you come along to one of these Renaissance days, so you work with me, you work with Dan, you get the whole thing filmed, like we'll also introduce you to our ready-made network, right? So you don't have to be alone in the wild doing this all on your own, right? I'll add you to our private WhatsApp group where you can connect with me, my other like-minded guys. Like, this is what it's about, right? You need to have your brothers around you. Otherwise, it's a very lonely existence. I don't care what anyone says. The whole perpetual lone wolf approach, it's not sustainable, it's not healthy, and it's severely outdated as well. Because when I
And
first got
it's lonely as well. I think after a while, you know, the lone wolf thing only lasts for so long until you realize that, oh, actually, I want friends or I want people around me that I can spend time with. And you'll miss that. And also, you don't want to be just the lone wolf forever because it's even more difficult then to get into a situation where you do want to be more sociable because you're not used to it. You know, you can develop skills in one area and master it to a very extreme degree, but that does mean that something else has to be sacrificed or neglected for you to develop this skill in one thing. So
Yeah, I think investing into your social skills is the best thing that men can do today, especially in the current climate that we live in. The world is getting more hyper digitalized. We're getting more and more entrenched inside the metaverse. Like society wants weak men who are just slaves to the screen, swiping their lives away. So I think if you can be the guy who wants to separate himself from every other guy, if you've actually got the skills to go over to people, not just women, but people, to strike up spontaneous conversations, you know how to leave people better than you found them. You go into a room and people turn their heads, being like, "What's this guy? Who is this guy? What's his secret? Like, I want what this guy's on." That's when
Mm.
you win, I think, in the current world, because the art of communication is becoming more and more rare. I see it with the younger generation. They just don't know how to speak to people. And if you're on a date with a girl, let's say you've run your routines, you've got your 5 minutes on the stage. Now you're on the date with a girl and you don't know how to converse, you don't know how to escalate, you don't know what to say, you don't know how to move, how to act. Like it's you're going to be in this lonely place as a guy because it's people that make the world go around. You need
Yeah.
to know how to connect with other human beings. And if your only way of like connecting is through a screen, in my opinion, you are absolutely fucked in the modern world. Like, don't just be another slave to the screen, because that's what the world wants you to be. So I think just actually being able to have that network of guys around you who are all on the same path, who want the same things, and also who aren't scared to actually tell you what you need to know rather than what you want to hear. Feedback is everything. And I think if you can get feedback from the right people, you'll live the life that you want to live.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think I had actually heard statistically that some of the younger generations now, they're having less and less sex as
Yeah,
well, because they are just struggling to communicate and learn how to have decent conversations with people. So in a way, it is a little bit scary that if a lot of these younger generations aren't learning just how to connect in person, and that they are practically just living either through just social apps or even dating apps as well. Like, I think there've been even further statistics of that like between like 18 and 24 or 25, they're going on even fewer or hardly any dates, but they are just matching with literally everyone. So everyone wants to hook up, but no one's actually hooking up. So it's a little bit surreal, and I think also just a little bit scary that we, if things just carry on the way that they're going, then eventually people just won't be talking to each other. There'll be this weird kind of like divide between just men and women, a bit like if you like in the school prom, where you've got all the guys standing on one side of the room and all the women on the other, and no one wants to step forward and actually dance with each other. It's to think that's kind of where like society might end up going is, I think, a little bit disconcerting in truth. But yeah, you have to just be learning how to talk to people and socialize. And if you don't, then you might end up regretting that, certainly later on down the line. And especially if you do the lone wolf thing for just way too long. Yeah, you might one day just sort of wake up and go, you know what, I'm now like 50 years old, I've got no friends, and I've not got in a relationship or anything. And I think that would just be heartbreaking if guys get to that, all because they just wanted the single life for forever. But yeah, no, you have to kind of like work on this balance of meeting women and socializing and having a social circle as well. It doesn't matter if it's small, but you've got to just have something in place, something to fall back on, something where you've got friends that you can talk to about stuff that isn't necessarily just day game related, and you can have normal conversations with people. And I think in a way that also stops people from being really weird as well as time goes on.
Yeah, like I remember you always saying to me, like, guys need to have friends who they go out and cold approach with, but they also need to do other things with those guys as well. Otherwise, the only reason that you're hanging out is because you're just scared to do it on your own, and it's like that's
Yeah.
just not a healthy relationship, man.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do a video on the concepts. I've been writing down uh, ideas for a video that I've got, which I'm going to title something along the lines of like all the things that I've learned in the 15 years working in the dating industry. And one of the points that I've got, in a way, I've kind of like labeled like all the titles for the different points, almost like titles from like a Jordan Peterson book. But one of the titles that I've got is essentially saying like, make sure that you know the last name of the guys that you're going out with, because otherwise you might regret it one day. And there's kind of like two sides of the story with that. One being like, if you're just going out and just doing approaching with guys, and you're not learning anything more about them, except for the only thing that you've got in common is just that you both like women, or that the group of you will like women, then you have to sort of question, like, is that a friendship? Because if someone suddenly gets into a relationship, does that mean then that they are no longer part of that friendship group just because they've now got something else going on in their lives, or is everyone still actually hanging out with each other? And if it's a case that they're not, then you have to kind of question, like is this really as good of a support system as one might hope? And especially if that guy doesn't have any kind of like friends outside of that support system as well. So yeah, guys definitely need to be doing stuff together. But also, just on a sort of a much deeper note, and I do apologize, this sort of sounds a little bit more depressive, but one of the guys that I knew who did take his life in this industry, because I've known 3 people, which is way too many really, but one of the guys that I was friends with, we'd gone out, spent time for a year. In fact, we even did like the Monopoly thing together. He was someone who would keep coming and going in our friendship group. So he'd go quiet, and then about 5-6 months later he'd reappear again, and he did this for like about 2 years, or it'd be every couple of months he'd come and go. And for a little while we hadn't heard, the group of us, we hadn't heard from this guy, and we were like, it's really weird that we haven't seen him. And funny enough, actually, he was also a client of Sam Overton, and someone had put a comment on one of Sam's videos and then said that, like, rest in peace. And we were all like looking at each other when we caught up. We were like, why has someone put rest in peace about this friend of ours? And it had turned out that, yeah, he'd taken his life. And it not only had he taken his life, but it had already been a month since that had happened. And he'd already been buried and had, his ceremony and stuff. And we were just heartbroken, because if we didn't know what his last name was, because everyone has either like a stage name in this industry, or they're very secretive about their personal lives outside of this industry, that we were just heartbroken, because we were like, we could have done more to help him if we'd have been able to, if he'd have been around that little bit more and had joined in more with the social group that we had, which was not just in the approaching, but also outside of doing the approaching, and just spending time with each other when we were all in London in one place. But we had no idea that he'd passed away. And it was just sadder that, we had no way to track him down, to have even known that had happened, because we didn't know his last name. He had no social media as well, which made it even more difficult. And it was literally just through one of my other friends in our group who managed to find out from the person who put the rest in peace comment. They then managed to find out from someone else. And then that was then how we were able to track down his family. So, I mean, it was a real adventure to sort of find out the story. But yeah, I mean, it was just a shocking thing. So, I want, if anything, the takeaway from this is, if you're spending a lot of time with guys in this industry, bear in mind that everyone has come into this industry most likely with some, really, I'm going to say sad story, not horrific story, because that's not fair, but they've come in with a story that's given them a reason to want to work on this area of their life. Because, a guy who's got everything, he doesn't really need to do street approaching. If he's already in a good place, he doesn't need that time to do it, unless he's got the money to burn and he's like, you know what, I've got nothing better to do. Absolutely, I'm financially successful, I've got everything I want, I'll just go out and do this. Then fair play to them. But most people who get into this industry, they are coming from a place of that, they were unhappy with their dating life or social life, or something about them that they perceived to be weak, and they wanted to work on it. And they came into this industry, they developed friendships, they developed the skills that they wanted to, but yeah, they still weren't fixing or working on the problems that they had in their lives. And this just became, I think doing street approaching was more of a distraction for some people than it actually being necessarily the fix. And I know certainly there have been stories like even with like Tom Torero before he'd passed as well. You know, he did videos talking about how, you know, doing approaching had cured his depression, and had helped him, I think, coming off of like some medications and stuff. But it was still a distraction from what may have been things that he had going on in his life, and same with my friend as well. So, you know, more importantly, if guys need to make sure, like, if you're going out with people, make sure that you are becoming the best of friends with each other. You know, don't let just meeting women be the only thing that you've got in common, because it can also be questionable if you do then find yourself in relationships and then the guys don't want to hang out with you. Then yeah, that's not really a support system. A support system is where you are building lifelong friendships with people, and you are also pushing each other to develop your skills. You know, what I think, in fact, I think the other night when we met up for my birthday, I thought one of the most beautiful things was with George bringing his missus. You know, I know it sounds silly, but I thought that was I thought that was really commendable of him to, you know, he been doing lots of street approaching over the years. He'd had coaching with you. He'd found himself and got himself into a relationship, which is, I think, fantastic. And then he decided on some crazy whim to bring her to a table with a dozen guys who were all just in the dating community. And he'd actually, you know, opened up to her and said, look, this was my life, or this kind of still is my life, and I'm doing what I'm doing now. And of course, he's also now doing street approaching on camera, and, you know, and teaching social freedom stuff. So, you know, I love then with that, the openness that you get, that there's nothing about there's no need to be afraid of, like, you're learning to develop your skill with women. I think it should be commended, you know, by doing it and being able to then be open to people who really want to support you on that, and you're supporting other people on that journey. I think is great. You know, because I mean, because at least then by for like George opening himself up to everyone, and even yourself, and like for her to sit with the coach who trained her boyfriend, you know.
But the thing is though, like, I think because everyone around that table were guys who I'd coached, right? So we were all there. It was my entourage, and George had brought along his girlfriend to the event, which it filled me with a massive sense of joy, because it was almost validation for me and for what I'd built, that he was happy to bring his partner along to an event which for most people would have been a little bit unorthodox. Like, wait, how do you know this guy? He taught you what? But like, I was speaking to her most of the night, and she was just so intrigued. She was so lovely. She was so curious. And what I've always found as well, I think, especially with girls, like when I actually sit down with a girl and I have like a conversation with them, I explain what I do. I explain the sort of life that I've built, the life that I live, and how everyone I want everyone who's associated with me to win. And it's not just a day game network, it's a life game network. I want us all to, you know, get more girls, make more money, live a independent international lifestyle, whatever, all of that stuff. It's not just one thing, but like just being able to actually like connect with the feminine and explain to them what I do. By the end of those conversations, they completely get it and they're on board with it. I think there is a social stigma attached to this. People hear the words cold approach, day game, street approaching, have this warped view of what it is. But for me, I've always seen myself as separate to this industry. And I think the thing that I'm the most proud of is this network that I've created. It's this like cross-pollinating, collaborative network where we all get around a table. We have these secret meetups wherever, and it's just like this mastermind experience where we all come together. Like you say, like we all started off in a sad place, right? We've all got that child inside of us who at one point in their lives wasn't getting the love that he wanted. He wasn't getting the validation he felt as though he deserved. He wasn't getting the approval from women or the veneration from men. And we've had to build ourselves up brick by brick. I think it doesn't matter how far you bring yourself up. I think we are always battling with that inner child who's like, this doesn't feel right. This isn't us. It's almost like trying to like pull you back. And there's that conflict between the person you want to be and the person you feel as though you have to be. But I think when you actually have this collaboration where you're able to actually, just like sit down with other guys and just like look at them and just be like, listen, I get you, right? I understand you. Like, it doesn't matter who you've been in the past. Like, I understand we're all insecure. No matter what sort of costumes you want to wear or what sort of acts we want to play, we're all just shitting it inside. We all feel unworthy. We all feel insecure. We all feel a little bit lost at times. And that's absolutely fine. But I think having the network to normalize things, and then when the guys who I work with do get into these beautiful relationships, it's like a win for all of us around the table, right? It's like, wow, he started off here. He's just like me. And now he's got this loving relationship with this amazing girl who actually accepts all of us as well. Like that's everything. Like, you can't put a price on that. That goes deeper than day game. It goes way further than just, oh yeah, let's go out and pick up girls. It's like, that's the true, like, life-changing effect, I think, that this space has had for me, and the effect I think it has on every guy who comes into contact with me.
Yeah, and imagine if everyone at that table had found relationships, and then everyone was sitting there together.
Wow. Yeah.
Like everyone's got girlfriends, and they're all openly saying, "Look, we got this because we were working with Christian." And then there's you sitting at the end of the table going like, "Hi everyone," and you're waving there. Then that is what this is about. And I think it's the trust as well that's there. That's even more beautiful. I mean, like the thing with which I think does separate, a dating coach from a pickup artist, or just guys who identify with improving this area of their life underneath a dating coach, as opposed to someone who is learning from a pickup guy. With pickup, there's an element of distrust there. Like, I know of stories over the years where if a guy brought a girl, actually, I've got another funny story. I've known guys who have brought girls to events, and then the other guys have literally tried to pick her up. They've tried to like behind the guy's back that they're claiming they're his friend, and and I think that's super dark. This is someone that you've gone out, you've done lots of street approaching with, you've gotten to know each other. They said probably from the start they were looking for a relationship or whatever, and here you are now trying to steal their girl behind their back. It's crazy. And
no honor amongst thieves.
No, which I've said to you, a few times, but to have that level of trust for George to bring his missus to a table of guys who are looking to develop their social and dating skills, and be at a place of peace where George was happily talking to everyone. Really, he was chatting with me, chatting with her. I know that there would be a lot of guys who would be like super paranoid if their girlfriend was talking to the dating coach that trained them to go out and meet women. They'd be mortified. They would be like, shit, he's going to have a really good conversation with her, and she's going to be just swept off her feet, and she's going to be more interested in the guy who trained me than me. It can be, guys can get incredibly paranoid with this, but the fact that there is just that level of trust, is amazing. And in fact, the funny story is, so over the years when I've been in relationships, one of my core values was that I always was very honest about me working in the dating industry with the women that I was dating. And I said to them, like, that you have to be okay with this. I'm not going to be doing anything that's going to jeopardize our relationship, but you have to be okay that I am working with dating coaches and filming content and helping them with their clients and stuff. And and unfortunately I always found relationships or women that love that anyway. But I do remember there were, in the very early days, so we're going back to like 2014 to 2016, in the relationships that I was in then, when I was filming more like hot seat workshops. So you used to have where like I filmed content that you couldn't see anywhere else unless you attended this event, and then you had guys who would turn up, like 30 to 60 guys sitting in the room, and they would literally watch the coach break down their in fields, like literally in person with people, and they'd be able to like rewind it back and stop and start and play this and that and do demos in front of people. But I remember like a couple of occasions I actually brought my girlfriend at the time, and guys would literally in front of me whilst I'm looking at them would try and pick her up.
Yeah.
And even like she'd come back to me and she'd be like, that guy just tried to ask for my number. And I was like, yep, welcome to the world of pickup. You know, they just have no respect for people. It's literally about just trying to sleep women, you know. And I do. I think that's dark. That's not a very healthy mentality. I don't think that even teaches guys a very ethical mindset with developing friendships or even dating as well. If you're going into meeting people being taught, don't trust them. Watch your back. Be careful. You have to be very protective, or you have to be the one to do it first before it's done to you. And you know, those are very, very dangerous mindsets to have. You know, they're applicable maybe in certain circumstances, but I don't think, you know, if you're building friendships with people, I don't think that's the right place for it. But yeah, you know, but I kind of envision this idea that, you know, that in time that we can lose this stigma of guys going to dating coaches for help, and then it can be treated as if, you know, guys are going to like a personal trainer. Like, yeah, you know what? My dating life sucks. I wanted to get it sorted. And, you know, and now because of it, a year later, I have got the best dating life, or I found the partner that I want to kind of like spend the rest of my life with, you know, and I'm happy for her to meet the other guys that I went out with, and even the coach that taught me how to meet women, so she can kind of like thank him for doing a really good job and finding happiness, you know, within them. Because in a way, you could also make the argument that it's not just the men who are having better dating lives, it's also the women who are having better dating lives. So they're now meeting better quality men who are coming up to them and having even better quality conversations and romantic experiences. Then I think working with a dating coach it just does wonders, I think, for people's lives, you know. And I've always kind of liked what you've done with guys anyway over the years and how you've helped them. And I think even with someone like George, it's a prime example of like the money that they invest in working with you as a coach, and even the community that they get out of it as well. I think it is absolutely fair to say the friendships that like George has got, and definitely not just giving George the credit here, but also just the other guys that have worked with you and then have made friends with everyone else in your community as well.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you could trade that for anything else in the world. I think it's just incredibly valuable to then have like friendships and probably be then with people who they could meet up. They could then actually form their own social circle where they've got all their girlfriends coming in as well. And they're like, you know what, let's book a holiday together. Let's do this or that. And then you find the girls end up becoming friends with each other as well. And you've just created this new reality of you've just got this new social bubble. And that's kind of part of the things that guys who come into this industry, they've most likely neglected or didn't get to experience in their life. Like I know for me, I mean, I've been in this industry for about a third of my life. You know, I mean, I got into the world of pickup at the age of 21, you know, and I'm 36 now. So, you know, to be in it for this long, you know, I never got to have like the social experiences that I know other people had. I didn't really have the most amazing social circle. And I can even honestly say, like, over the years, I kind of wished and wondered what that would be like if I had, you know, a girlfriend that was bringing to a group with other friends and they had their girlfriends and they were all just like hanging out at a table and going for drinks and stuff, you know, or booking holidays, etc. You know, but you can create that reality, and that is what I do think is really the beautiful thing with this, and especially what you are teaching guys, that they can do that, they can create that because there is that level of trust there.
Yeah, and I think for me that's always been my biggest motivation. Like, I'm not motivated by money because I want to like be flashy and buy the fucking Lamborghini or Rolex. Like, for me, money is the oxygen that I need to breathe and continue to
Oh
do
yeah,
this
well
good work.
I've seen the meals
But
that you have. I mean, you shop on like the bare minimum in like Lidl or something. So I mean,
I don't care. I don't care about flashy stuff. Like, I'm not motivated by that. I'm not motivated by the materialistic trophies. What I believe that we all want is we want to have healthy relationships and strong communities. I think any man in this world would trade whatever he's got in the bank to have those two things. It's to receive love from the feminine and to have strong masculine support around you, relationships and community. That's everything. I think it's probably my upbringing that has driven this revolution in my mind, whereby I when I'm sat around that table and I've got everyone there around me, like that for me, like that I can't put a price on what that actually is. It's like, oh wow, like I've made this happen. Like everyone around this table, they're all, making friends with each other. Maybe some of them are gonna go get married. I can come to their wedding, and it's like it's just this beautiful holistic thing. I don't even see myself as a dating coach. I don't see myself even like I've always seen myself as like separate from this space. Like even when I speak to my clients or I speak to girls or whatever, tell them about what I do, they're like, "You're not really a dating coach, are you?" And it's like, no, I'm not. Like I don't. I've labeled myself as like a freedom from bullshit practitioner or personal renaissance specialist, like however wanky labels I want to put on it. But it's always been deeper than day game for me. It's about building strong relationships and healthy community. Because, like we said, like a little while ago, I think we all do feel quite lost coming into this space. We need people to believe in us. We also need people who are there to be a witness to our wins and help us connect with other like-minded people. So, yeah, for me, that's the ultimate win. It's not making like a stupid amount of money. It's not going to like the 5-star resorts. It's just having good people, and being a catalyst for other people's romantic and social lives, because that just feels like a win for my former self. If I can see like I've made that happen. So yeah, no, it's beautiful. And I'm happy that you got to witness that on your birthday as well.
yeah, but it's just again, it's that support system that you've created, and also you're acting as I think as a healthy and more holistic role model than what other coaches can then be putting out. Because I mean, you mentioned it before about you know, you've got coaches who are like drilling this strategic, like
Yeah,
even if you're not in the mood, you have to go out, you have to be doing this.
yeah,
But that's easier said than done, and that's also not, I don't think that's even great advice for someone. If someone's really having a bad day, telling them like, yeah, just go out and do an approach, and making them feel guilty by saying that if you don't go and approach, then your life is not going to change. You're in a bad place. That's only going to just feed that negativity even more on them, rather than them hearing the advice of like, you know what, go and spend time with some friends. Just put yourself in an even better mood, make yourself feel better about yourself, let others do that as well, and get yourself into a better state, and then go out and do that stuff. I mean, that would be a much more holistic approach to it. But yeah, but I do like that you are kind of, yeah, yes, you're building that community, but you are actually acting as a healthy model, a role model for guys as well. And I think ultimately they'll just get better results because of that, by teaching them a much more ethical way to date. And trust would certainly be a big factor of that.
yeah. Because I think for me, like final thing I'll say, and then you can tell people where they can find you and stuff. I think for me to get the best results out of people, they first of all need to feel comfortable with you. So like something that I'm doing more and more now, because I'm always trying to like think of ways that how can I make this experience better? Like how can I truly over deliver and delight people beyond belief? I think something that I'm going to start doing now is before we even start our coaching sessions, I'm going to bring guys to my apartment, and we'll literally just like have like a sit down in here, like no, like not like in a cafe or a public place, just like bring them here, just like a safe space, and just kind of like flesh out everything that's going on inside there. So I think a problem that I see with other like coaching programs is like you'll just meet up with a coach and boom, you're just straight into the approaching. But it's like you don't know where that guy's at in the moment.
Yeah.
Right, he might have a lot of baggage that he's going through. He might just had a really shit day today. He might not slept very well the night before. Like, we need to find out where the guy is at in the moment, like where he's at in his life right now. Is there anything that I can do to make this experience better for him? Because oftentimes I think guys just need to be able to talk. And I think something that I've found that I'm actually very good at is being able to just listen. like what I've found is like guys open up to me like very quickly about like really deep things, and it's like it's almost as though they know that first of all, like I understand, and like it's not gonna go anywhere else, and it's like this like release, it's like catharsis where it's like, and they'll say it as well. It's almost like they catch themselves and they're like, I've never said that to anybody before. I don't know what came over me. I'm
Mm.
sorry about saying that. Like, it's like, no, no, no. You don't need to apologize. It's fine. Like, you can say that. And then once they have like released that burden, now they can start connecting. You know, now they can actually be here in the moment and realize that you've got nothing to prove to me. You know, you're not here because you're perfect. You're here because you want to learn and get better.
Mm.
So I think just opening a space up for guys, because I do think the mental health aspect is everything with this. I think there is this overemphasis on being this robotic, stone cold alpha. You know, be a high value man, show no emotion. It's us versus them. It's like it's just such a toxic mentality. I think actually, and George is really good at this as well. Like actually being able to connect with the feminine energy within you, because we're all born from those two energies. We've all got the masculine and the feminine. Like the masculine is there, you know, the ambition, the drive, the leadership, the groundedness, the no bullshit. But then we've also got like that softness, that lightheartedness, that nurturing energy that we're all capable of. But I think it's almost like guys feel ashamed if they're in tune with that. And I think a big part of this process is actually being able to be like more at ease with that feminine energy within you. Doesn't mean you have to go out and start dressing like a girl. It's not about that, but it is about connecting with that more empathetic version of you, which is there, like someone who's there to just be there for their friends as well. Because that's what girls are really good at. Girls are really good at listening to their friends and being like, oh, you know, have you tried this? It's okay, you can talk. Like they're great at that. As guys, I think we lack in that area.
Yeah, well, in fact, I think one of the things that I've definitely noticed about you with over the years, um, I think even putting aside the idea with like the masculine, your masculinity has improved. I would say just your sexual energy has improved because of meeting more women, and then obviously going on more dates, etc. So even if guys aren't that crazy masculine guy, or that they have got more gentle aspects or elements to them, it's just still developing that sexual energy, that intention, that that you want something to happen with the women that you're talking to. And it's safe to say I think women have certainly got that sixth sense when it comes to anything that's energy or motion related, and they know what you want from them when you're meeting them. And even just that element alone, it's usually where there's the whole topic or conversation about subliminal messaging or subconscious communication, where you don't even have to say anything to a woman that you're attracted to. They know what you want. They feel it as well. And then and even then there's the are they open to that, or are they not open to that? But yeah, I mean, guys, when they go out, if when you're approaching, bear in mind again, I've seen like 80 plus different styles of approaches. I've seen some that have been really masculine, some that have been really feminine, some that are certainly anywhere in the middle along that spectrum. And it's just a matter of just showing that sexual interest and intention, not in an over the top kind of way where you're going over and you're like staring the girl down and you're like thinking in your mind like, yes, I want to sleep with you, or I want to fuck you, or whatever. Nothing absurd like that. But just, I think certainly what I've noticed for you is that your sexual energy and presence has certainly gone up just from doing a lot of approaching, and certainly just being sort of absorbed in the world of doing approaching for the last few years.
Yeah, I think the journey that I'm on now is like, because I'm really in touch with like that masculine, of like that masculine, like that the masculinity within me. Like people meet me. Actually, it was funny. George said to his girlfriend, he warned her before she met me. He's like, right, it's okay if you feel a bit intimidated by Chris. He's very loud. He's quite big. So if it gets a little bit too much, let me know. And so she's like,
You like spray you with water.
yeah, and like I was having a conversation with him yesterday, and he was like, you're in touch with that masculinity, right? You're not just like a little fucking wallflower, a little fucking pansy who's like, ah, like you're not that. But like he was like, what I've noticed more and more about you now is you've started to tap in more to that softer side, like dance with both energies, and I can feel it in myself as well because like I'm probably everyone on this. I feel emotions deeply. Like when I'm really happy, I'm elated. When I'm really sad, I'm just depressed as shit. Like I feel like the extremities of things. But like whenever I'm watching like content online today, and there's like a guy giving advice, it's always advice towards men, which is just giving advice towards their masculine energy. And I feel as though men today are being brainwashed by the brain dead into believing they have to be this paragon of stoicism, like never cry, don't show emotion. And
Yeah.
I think that is truly toxic because now men feel guilty for being humans. I think that is a sad state to be in, and I think it will destroy your relationships with women because you feel as though you have to put on this act of this stoic warrior. That's not what she wants. Like she wants to connect with your full entire being. And for me, masculinity is being completely comfortable in your own skin. That's what it's about. It's not like getting massively jacked or driving a fucking Lamborghini or being some like authoritarian dictator being like, you must sit this way. It's not that. It's being comfortable and at ease with who you are in this moment, being able to ask yourself as well, what does the moment want? Because sometimes if I'm coaching a guy, the moment does just want like that hyper masculine within me to be like, mate, we're either going to do this or we're not, right? We've been walking around for 30 minutes now. You're either going to do it or you're going to go home. You paid the money. So just like, we need to just get on with it. But then sometimes he just needs the softer side. He's like, I'm like, bro, I know that this is super scary. It's fine. Let's just try and compliment one girl. How about that? And it's like that now I'm able to give him what he needs in the moment. But I think most people who teach this, it's my way or the highway. It's like I'm gonna pummel you with this strong masculine energy. You're either gonna do it or you're not gonna do it. It's understanding where guys are at in the moment and what energy that they need. I think that's crucial with this.
Yeah, well, and that's usually where like bespoke coaching comes into play with here, and also where guys do have to be aware that, you know, again, there is an element of like the blind leading the blind, where you're getting guys who have done like boot camps or residentials, and then they think like oh, I can do this job, this will be easy, and then they come in and then they just struggle to present themselves online as a coach. Then yeah, you know, they'll bring out all these like really weird morals and ethics as well, and you're gonna get, if you're getting vulnerable guys watching that content, then they're going to just assume like, oh, well, if that guy is doing it, then I should do it too. And yeah, that's where I think people do end up like screwing up with things in regards to communication. And yeah, and absolutely, no, I agree with like the masculine and femininity sort of side of things. I mean, in fact, even it's probably not even fair to say that it's sort of masculine and femininity really, because they're kind of like because it's a different sort, in a way, it's sort of a different thing. But being able to I've lost my train of thought again. It's totally gone. This is what I get when I don't get any sleep overnight.
While you think about it, let me just read out this comment, just because it's never really a true live stream unless I lose my absolute tits with somebody. Luca Barneski, this is a great one. Just get a Tinder. If they scared to approach, it's much more simple. Okay, so ultimately, Luca, we already know, right? We already know that dating apps are the easy way, okay? We already know that dating apps are for weak-willed men who just want the easy path in life. If this is the place that you're operating from, you just want the easy ride, then kindly unsubscribe. Don't watch this content anymore because it's not made for you, right? I'm not making content for weak-willed men who just want to be slaves to the screen and swipe their lives away. If you want the easy way out, then continue swiping. Do that. And you may well be fulfilled by doing it, but you're going to be in a bucket of every other guy. Like it always just pisses me off when guys, they always say the same thing. Oh, just do online dating. It's easier. Like the way you do anything is the way you do everything, right? I guarantee you're watching this live stream. You're probably sexless. You've got a shit job. Your lifestyle is awful. And everything you do, it's always the path of least resistance. For me, and this is like super abstract, day game is a discipline that takes me closer to divine, right? Imagine that God is watching me, and every time I take the easy way out, that is a blow to my self-worth as a man. If I'm sat at home at 10 p.m. being like, swipe, I feel less of a man. And when I'm going out there chatting with girls, it's like if you're wanking yourself off to porn every night. Oh, instant gratification, easy way out. Life is simple. Life is easy. You're on the carousel of comfort, being a slave to your impulses. So please stop commenting this stuff on the live stream. Please stop coming over to content which is based around helping men become stronger men and telling men to take the easy way out. It's not what I'm about, all right? If you want that sort of content, go over to some fucking Soy Boys channel and just like watch that stuff until the cows come home. But let's just stop saying to take the easy way out, because that's not what I resonate with.
Yeah, and from you saying that has actually re-sparked what I was going to say.
There you go.
So yeah, I appreciate it. As I say, this is what happens if I don't get any sleep and I have to try and sleep through the humidity. I just don't cope very well. But now imagine imagine the scenario where, let's say, a guy, or maybe even yourself, you've approached a girl and it turns out she's having a really bad day and she's upset.
Mm-hmm.
Now you'll have some guys who will then, they'll be like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to talk to you. And they'll just find a very quick reason to escape and leave. And they'll just leave her to their devices. They're like, you know what? I don't really want to connect with this person. I just want to carry on. I just want to carry on doing approaches. I want to get numbers and get results. So that would potentially be what we'll consider the masculine sort of side. Now imagine the scenario: you've approached a girl and she's really upset. She's had a hard day and she's tough. What's happened? Why have you had such a bad day? Should we go and have a coffee? You want to tell me about it? I know I'm a stranger, but maybe I can kind of give you whatever support that you need. Just showing a bit of like sympathy. I know, I'll feed you shortly, my lovely. Just having a bit of sympathy and empathy for someone, you could end up connecting with them on a much deeper level. And there's nothing really feminine about it. Being a guy who had the confidence to go and approach someone, give them a compliment, and then find out that, that they were having a bad day, and then wanting to connect with them even more. I don't know if you saw it. I know. I'll feed you soon.
Stop playing with the pussy, Dan.
Lily,
get her on the stream, man. We can use her for her thumbnail.
If she'll, yeah. She always jumps on the laptop, especially if I am doing like live streams with clients. Really, Lily, come on.
That's the next live stream, bro. How to get more pussy as a low confidence man.
Yeah, I mean, she's.
Hey, there we go. Oh yes.
So silly. So I mean, you'll get guys who will make the argument of like, oh well, she was just having a bad day. I didn't want to get involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have guys who'll be like, you know what? I know if I was in that same situation, I would have loved to have just had someone to have just given me some level of support. And you probably would even find that after that day, she's just going to be in such a better mood that then she probably does want to have a date with you and have something happen with you, because you've just been able to connect with each other on such a deep and intimate level. Now, there's nothing then feminine necessarily about being sympathetic to someone who's having a really bad day, as opposed to someone who's like, no, forget it. I don't want to have anything to do with them. They can just suffer as much as they want. Those are going to be then the guys who actually aren't going to get great results, or they're going to just get very specific results. They're going to just be probably the kind of guy who will sleep with a woman and then forget about her. And that's certainly, again, that's not really a healthy way of doing things. Whereas being able to develop some level of connection with someone, there's nothing emasculating about that. I mean, that's how people form friendships. That's how people form relationships. I don't know if you've seen the meme of that Asian guy from Community, where he just sort of shouts out like "gay." He wouldn't wouldn't be the case of every time you saw a happy couple, a guy and a girl or whatever in a relationship. You're not going to just be like, oh, that's pathetic. You wouldn't do that. You would probably, especially if it was a friend, you'd be like, I'm really happy for you. And there's nothing emasculating about being supportive of someone. So I do think that there has, and this is probably the media to blame for this, but I think there's been a misunderstanding and a miscommunication of what actually it means for people to be both masculine and feminine. Absolutely. If a guy puts on a dress, then that's a very different story to end up talking about. And same if a woman puts on a suit, then that's probably also a very different story to talk about. But if we're talking about just having a bit of sympathy and empathy for someone that's either a friend or a stranger, I don't think there's anything that's emasculating about that. I mean, you're doing something very altruistic, and in fact, you're just being a decent person as well. Not even just a good person, but you're being a decent person, and that is also a trait that people are going to want to spend time with, whether it be women or friends or family or whatever. You know, that's something though that people do need to, I think, bear in mind that they can't just come into this industry and just think like, oh yeah, I just want to sleep with women and stuff. It's a very empty and hollow mindset and goal to have. You know, meeting women won't solve all of your problems, and in fact, it's probably more of a distraction from your problems as well. You could let a decade go if you don't actually do anything about it. So, you know, it's really important that you develop decent skills in life, and being okay with what actually is masculine.
Your volume's gone a bit low.
Has it?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm not sure why. No, I still got plenty of battery on my phone, so
Oh,
not
that's
sure
weird.
why.
The audio's got a bit fucked, mate. So let's just put it here.
All right.
Wait,
I'm
you
not
back?
sure why. I think I was on a good roll then, but oh well.
Wait, no, wait. We're back.
Has it come back?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, that's good. But yeah, I mean, I'll kind of sort of just finish my point there, and that's yeah, you know, if you guys need to just they've got the misunderstanding of what masculine and feminine actually means for a guy. You can be sympathetic, you can be empathetic to other fellow men, be supportive and stuff. You don't have to be this like every man for himself, and you know that's their problem, not mine. You know, help each other out, and you know, be supportive, build that level of trust with each other, rather than it feeling very cutthroat. And you know, and that is actually what gives the industry such a bad name, is that if guys are just constantly going out and the attitude is like, oh, they're using lines and routines to just sleep with women, then 100% that sounds quite manipulative. And that's where I think there are the guys who are just a little bit blindsided by that, where they're like, oh well, you know, I'm just, you know, I can do whatever I want. That's my life and stuff. But you have to also just look at it from a slightly different perspective of it just sounds like you're just manipulating people. Really, there's nothing, you know, and you've got all the time in the world to do it, and then that's probably even questionable. How have you got so much time in the world to do it? And if you're not a dating coach, then clearly you're probably neglecting other areas of your life to be, you know, doing this. And if guys have the wrong mentality, then yeah, that's not going to give them the life skills that they need to do better in life, or to just be better people.
Yeah. So before the stream goes weird, where can people find you?
I attempted then to try and tilt it at Lily, but the angle there is clearly.
We saw the cat.
Yeah, you saw her. She knows she needs to be fed now. So yeah, I mean, if you're interested in finding out more stuff about me, about the life coaching or the eye movement therapy stuff that I do, helping people with like past traumas and experiences and limiting beliefs, you can head over to my YouTube channel called Dating Anxiety. It's still fairly new. It's only been up for a couple of weeks, but I've been doing my very best to put out content almost every day, talking about certainly my experiences and all of my knowledge that I have accumulated over the last sort of 15 years working in the dating industry, certainly giving more insights into it, and also just bringing a lot of stuff that I've learned over the years from other self-improvement coaches into the dating industry that I feel it has been missing for a really long time. Because although I would say the dating industry has certainly the best risk and reward results, I would say though it is still very far behind every other niche in the self-improvement world, because it only still teaches just a very small window of things that guys can work on. So I'm trying to just incorporate a lot more stuff into it. Definitely, Christian. I still want to have you. I want to interview you on my channel when you're back in London as well, because I think it would be amazing, really, for guys to actually hear a bit more of your backstory and what life was like for you before you got into game or into day game, and then what has life been like for you like now and going forward. And definitely a topic that I'd love to talk to you about is about masculinity. I think you're probably I think you're probably the best person that I've known over the years who has had such a transformation with his own sexual energy and masculinity, and just how you talk and interact with people, that I think if I probably had the opportunity to really like pluck out some really good questions from you, or get some really good answers from you, I think it would be such a fantastic podcast episode that guys, I think, would get a lot of information from, in just things that they can implement into their own lives. But other than that, yeah, I mean, you can find all of my content there. I'm trying to do my best to put out stuff that is going to help you with your dating life, help you with your anxiety, and definitely if guys have ideas of particular videos that they want, I'm all for making sure that that content goes out as priority. So you only have to send me a message on my channel and or even on this video, and I'll certainly try and come back and keep taking a look. And yeah, hopefully I can make videos to help you out and hopefully push you towards doing the filming service with myself and Christian, and maybe even going to Christian for coaching as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'll put all of the links below, and then guys, and then they also sign up for the filming day if that's how they're interested in. So yeah, thank you very much. We'll do more of these in the future. I can give my voice like swing back to me. So
yeah, I don't know why it's gone really weird now.
Yeah, it's the best time to finish. Anyway, thank you again.
No worries.